Hi there, this is Professor Bunning. I wanted to take a few minutes to address some of the issues that I saw in the Step 1 assignments that I've just finished grading. I urge you to take the time to go in and look at the comments that I made. I did make some extensive comments on the papers in the comment section and on the rubric, so you can kind of see where you need to tweak this a little bit. I want to just kind of zero in on a couple of the errors that I saw that were a little bit more commonplace. First of all, this is not the same type of research paper you're used to writing. It's really not an informative paper. The informative paper you wrote for technical description, the purpose of that was to tell somebody about a disease or whatever. It was mainly to inform. The difference between this one is that in this paper you are going into it without a preconceived notion. Okay? It's not arguing for a side. You are just saying, okay, I want to know the answer to this question. So it has to be a question that is not really obvious. All right? So your research question is really important. It isn't just a broad question like, why are people obese? That's too broad. You want to specify what you're looking for in your research. So you want to say something like, is there a correlation between genetics and obesity in children? So you're not just talking about all the causes of obesity, you're only looking at one cause. And then you're trying to determine, is this a real cause? Can we say that this is a causal relationship, or is it just correlational, which is a little bit of a difference. So make sure that you've got a question that your research is going to take you one way or the other. Now, another thing that I saw that was an issue was some of you were giving me your research findings in your introduction, and you really don't want to do that. You want to, the purpose of the paper is to prove or disprove your hypothesis. So if you're saying, do vaccinations cause autism, that's all you want to say in your introduction. You want to talk about autism, you want to talk about why it's important, you want to talk about how many people have it, but you don't want to say that vaccinations do or don't, because that's the purpose of your paper, is to either prove or disprove that theory. Even though most of the research says yes, you don't want to say that yet. You want to save that for later. Some of you had topics that don't really work for this kind of paper. If you're doing something on concussions and you only want to talk about what is a concussion, what causes a concussion, why are concussions important, that was what you did in your previous paper. If you want to keep that same topic for this paper, you want to show a correlation between concussions and traumatic brain injury, or whatever that disease is that's causing. You want to show that people who are constantly hit on the head in football or sports have problems later on in life because of this. You're showing a correlation between those two events. All right? So I'm urging you to make sure that your topic is working for this. Some of the topics that you use for the technical description will also work for this, but you can't use the same paper. Your approach is totally different. For this paper, you might be able to use some of the background information if you're doing autism, for example, or ADHD. Some of your background information from the technical description can be used in your introduction. But that's about it, because when you go into your next section of the paper, which is the review of literature, you want to make sure that your review of literature is directly related to your research question. All right. So, for instance, do vaccinations cause autism? So you're going to go to valid research places and you're going to find 4 studies. It's going to be easy because you're going to look at this and you're going to find 95% of them are going to say yes, it does. So pick 4 decent studies, summarize those studies, and that supports your hypothesis. Yes, it does. Now, you may have a topic that is not quite so cut and dry. Is marijuana a gateway drug? Well, your hypothesis may be yes, it is. That does not mean you're going into this research of literature to find things that support yes, it is. You're going in there with an open mind. You may find out there is a slight correlation, but it's not proven. So you want to look at your articles. If you look at 17 articles and they all, let's say 50% of them say it is a gateway drug, 50% say it isn't. Well, you might take 2 of each. And then you may draw your conclusion that says we don't have enough research. It's not proven. Whereas with possibly the ADHD one, you may find out that, hey, yeah, definitely it is genetic. And then you draw those conclusions. Your research has to lead your conclusions. And you don't want to put your conclusions in until you've done your research. So look at the comments that I made. I spent a lot of time telling you about the comments. If you're off track in step 1, you've got to fix it before step 2, or you're going to be off track on step 2. You know, the worst case scenario is that you do this entire paper, and at the end I tell you, no, this is not what you're supposed to do. You did it all wrong. That's why I have you turn them in sections. So if you're having a problem with step 1, we can fix it before you go on to step 2 or step 3. So look at my comments. You're going into the next section now. The next section is the section on your research. You need at least 2 of the articles from the database. You're going to summarize the articles. This is the main part of your paper. It should be probably about 800 words, about 200 words per summary. So you want to do that, and then your next step, you're going to draw conclusions, and that's when you'll tell the reader what you found. Was your hypothesis proven, or was it disproven? So if you're turning in anything, I think some of you emailed me with issues. I'll get it in later tonight. That was fine. I only got 1 email that had an attachment to it with a paper on it. So I'm saying that after today, I am not going to look at any more step 1s. You'll get some credit if you email it to me. I'll get back to you with yes or no. I'm not going to put a lot of comments on it because I can't comment on the paper itself, and it can't use the rubric since it's not submitted correctly. So you'll get some credit. If not, go on. Do step 2 because it's 20 points. If you lose this 20 points, it's not the end of the world. The paper's worth 200 points. You can eat this. That's okay. But the next one, you got to get it done. That's the most important part. And even if you didn't do step 1, when you start putting the paper together, you're going to have to go back and do step 1 because it's the first part of your paper. So I just wanted to kind of personally discuss with you some of the issues that I saw. Please look at my comments, make the corrections, and turn it in. You don't need to redo this. Just fix it before you use this in your real paper in the final copy of the paper. All right, have a great day, and I will talk to you later.